About 10 days ago, when I tried to access ChatGPT's website to do some work, I was shocked to see the following. The service had been blocked in Italy. ChatGPT writes,
Dear ChatGPT user, we regret to inform you that we have disabled ChatGPT for users in Italy at the request of the Italian Guarantee. We are issuing refunds to all users in Italy who purchased a ChatGPT Plus subscription in March.
And so on and so on. But how is this possible? Perhaps the biggest innovation of the last years blocked in Italy? No more having to write text yourself, no more homework for students, no more having to come up with your own ideas for YouTube videos. How can this be blocked? Why did it come to this, and could it be that your country is next? Let's find out. ChatGPT is currently unavailable in only a few countries worldwide, including Russia, Ukraine, China or Iran. But in these states, as far as I know, the chatbot was never made available on purpose. In any case, Italy is the first Western country to block the chatbot itself, although that's actually not entirely true either, but we'll get to that in a moment. So why Italy? The truth is, I'm not surprised that Italy was the first state to put a stop to this. Italy is a fantastic country. The landscape and the cultural sites are just incredible. You get the best espresso and the best pizza in the world. In general, the food is among the best in the world. A visit to Italy should be on everyone's bucket list. Nevertheless, it must be said that the relationship of the state with its citizens has not always been easy. Italy is drowning in bureaucracy. It is estimated that there are well over 100,000 laws. No one knows them all. In a ranking of the leading 21 industrialized nations, Italy is considered the least attractive location for businesses. Starting and running a business in Italy is, it must be unfortunately said, a nightmare. This is also due to the extreme tendency to heavily regulate and restrict everything. Just two examples from the last 2 weeks. By law, Italy wants to ban the sale, import and use of synthetic foods such as artificial meat or analog cheese, as well as insect meal as an ingredient. Not that I feel much desire for an insect meal at the moment, but it is clear that it is not the consumer who is to be protected here. Second example, the government wants to ban the use of English terms in official communications. For example, in communications from public authorities, at school or at universities. A violation is to be punished with up to 100,000 euros. The Italian language seems to be in danger and must be protected from English terms. By the way, should you have wondered why I sound anything but Italian? I live here in the extreme north of Italy, and here a large part of the population speaks German, and the accent, whether German or Italian, I will probably never get rid of. Everything I have said so far would suggest that the Italian authorities are overreacting once again in the case of ChatGPT, and that all the accusations are not justified. However, it is not that simple. Let's therefore take a closer look at the accusation against OpenAI and ChatGPT. Incidentally, the Italian Data Protection Authority was responsible for the allegation against OpenAI and ChatGPT. This is the authority that ensures in Italy that the personal data of private individuals and users is protected and not misused. When a company collects personal data, it needs the user's permission and a legal justification for doing so. On March 20th, the following happened. There was a data breach at OpenAI, whereby a large amount of data OpenAI collected via ChatGPT was made available unprotected or leaked. This includes data collected via the chat as well as data from users using the paid service ChatGPT Plus. It is clear that this data leak does not only affect the data of Italian users, but I think that the data breach has led the Italian authority to take a closer look at ChatGPT. Then on March 31st, the Italian Data Protection Authority brought forward various allegations. There were 4 in total, and I'll summarize them in simplified terms. The first one was that the users of the chat were not sufficiently informed about the use of their data. Of course, OpenAI provides information on its privacy policy on its website. It says, for example, that the data on the account, the uploaded files, text inputs and so on are collected. Please don't ask me if this information complies with the legal terms. Apparently not. Second allegation, there would be no legal basis to justify that OpenAI collects and uses personal data and information of its users to train the AI. According to the Italian Data Protection Authority, training an AI is not a sufficient justification to collect and store personal data. OpenAI states in its own April 5th blog post on the subject,
"We use data to make our models more helpful for people. ChatGPT, for instance, improves by further training on the conversations people have with it. While some of our training data includes personal information that is available on the public internet, we want our models to learn about the world, not private individuals. So we work to remove personal information information from the training dataset where feasible, fine-tune models to reject requests for personal information of private individuals, and respond to requests from individuals to delete their personal information from our systems.
Third accusation, the results of the chat would often lead to wrong results. This means that personal data is clearly not being used correctly. This accusation is very difficult to deny. ChatGPT is currently being sued in Australia, for example, because an Australian mayor is being falsely named by ChatGPT as the culprit in a bribery scandal, even though the mayor we are talking about did not cause a scandal, but uncovered it. Admittedly, for a politician, being named as the culprit of a bribery scandal is not exactly ideal. That's why there is now defamation suit. Fourth allegation, minors would not be sufficiently protected from the service. According to OpenAI, the service would be aimed at users older than 13. However, there would be no filter whatsoever to prevent minors from using the service. Children could therefore be exposed to inappropriate results and responses. Furthermore, what law determines that the service is inappropriate up to 12 but okay from 13? There is no such law, of course. OpenAI also refers to this in the April 5th block entry.
One critical focus of our safety efforts is protecting children. We require that people must be 18 or older, or 13 or older with parental approval to use our AI tools and are looking into verification options. We do not permit our technology to be used to generate hateful, harassing, violent, or adult content, among other categories.
On the other hand, we all know that our children use online services, some of which are not appropriate for them because of their age. ChatGPT I consider a rather lesser evil in this context. As a result of the allegations made by the Italian Data Protection Authority, OpenAI blocked the service in Italy on its own initiative. Therefore, no additional intervention by the Italian state was necessary. Since this is a tech channel, I don't need to tell anyone that the current ban is easy to get around. And I was wondering what ChatGPT has to say about the mentioned allegations. But since I don't want to break any laws, I asked a friend of mine in Austria if he could ask ChatGPT if their own service could lead to problems with European privacy laws. Let's see what ChatGPT answered. And the answer is interesting. My first question to ChatGPT was, does ChatGPT violate the European privacy regulations?
As an AI language model, ChatGPT itself does not violate European privacy regulations, as it does not collect, process, or store personal data.
This is already interesting, because it actually contradicts the previous accusations. But it goes even further, because ChatGPT says,
however, the way ChatGPT is implemented and used could potentially lead to violations of European privacy regulations. For example, if ChatGPT is integrated into a chatbot or other software that collects and processes personal data, the implementation of that software could potentially violate European privacy regulations.
Okay, so if anything, the others are to blame. But maybe the question was wrong. It's not ChatGPT that collects the data, but OpenAI. So let's try again, and this time a bit nastier. Does OpenAI violate the European privacy regulations by collecting the information from this chat?
As an AI language model, OpenAI does not violate European privacy regulations by collecting information from this chat because it does not collect any personal information that could be used to identify you as an individual. OpenAI's policies and practices are designed to protect users' privacy and comply with relevant laws and regulations. OpenAI only collects information necessary for the functioning and improvement of its services, and anonymizes and aggregates that information to protect users' privacy. However, it is important to note that any personal information that you voluntarily provide in your interactions with ChatGPT, such as your name or contact details, could potentially be collected by other parties who have access to the chat logs. It is therefore recommended that you do not share any personal or sensitive information in this chat or any other online forum.
Wait, does that mean that third parties have access to this chat log? Well, I wouldn't pay too much importance on ChatGPT's answers. The fact that you should not share personal information with ChatGPT is something that Samsung employees have had to learn the hard way. Quite obviously, they use ChatGPT at work and also used internal data and shared it with ChatGPT. In one instance, an employee pasted confidential source code into the chat to check for errors. Another employee shared code with ChatGPT and requested code optimization. A third shared a recording of a meeting to convert into notes for a presentation. That information is now out in the wild for ChatGPT to feed on. From what we've heard so far, not a great idea. OpenAI now has 20 days, that would be until March 20th, to explain itself and tell the Italian authority how it intends to comply with the Italian privacy requirements. If this does not happen, OpenAI risks a fine of up to 20 million euros or 4% of its global turnover. If OpenAI now uses its chatbot to answer the Italian privacy authority's request, Then we already know the answer, but I think they are still asking their lawyers in 2023. But what does all this mean now for your country and the future of ChatGPT in your country? Of course, everything also depends on the privacy laws of each country, but I'm convinced that regardless of what comes out now on April 20th, the data protection authorities are now alarmed. And not only because of the proactive approach of the Italian authority, but also because of what happened at Samsung or because of the lawsuits that will follow. Moreover, we must not forget, and this is important, that the Italian data protection law is based on a European regulation. Basically, this means that if the data protection regulations in Italy are violated, this can also be proven, the data protection regulations of all other European states are automatically violated as well, at least of those states that are in the European Union. A ban in Italy would therefore also have to lead to a ban in all other countries in the European Union. How it looks in the US or in the UK, I can only judge with difficulty. When it comes to AI, we are still at the very beginning. AI will change the world, and also the way we work intellectually. And I'm convinced that this process will pose an enormous challenge for us. Regardless of what one may think of Elon Musk, his call, made along with several AI experts, to pause for at least 6 months may not be entirely unfounded. AI will challenge and change our society, but that of course also makes the whole thing exciting. What's your take on this? Privacy versus progress? Write your opinion in the comments and give me a like as feedback if you liked the video. And I'll see you in the next one.